Today, we're counting down 5 Seattle neighborhoods where median rent stays under $2,000 for 2026, all inside the city limits. And the number one spot is a name many renters overlook when they think about big money Seattle addresses. For this countdown, the key filter is simple. Zillow ZORI median rent readings from May 31st, 2026. Keep every neighborhood here between about $1,829 and $1,988 a month. We're also looking at the buy versus rent gap, nearby parks or water, and how practical the neighborhood feels for everyday errands. Number 5 starts in North Seattle, where the rent number is the lowest of the 5. Number 5, Northgate. Northgate lands here with the lowest median rent in the countdown, about $1,829 a month. Zillow's home value estimates from May 2026 put the typical home here around $546,000, also the lowest home price figure among these 5 neighborhoods. Walk Score rates Northgate at 87, which gives it one of the strongest car-light errand profiles in this group. Thornton Creek, threading through the neighborhood, adds a quieter, natural feature to a place many people first associate with shopping and connections. The reason Northgate is not higher is that its rent-to-buy spread is strong, but not shocking compared with what is coming later. A median home price in the mid-500s is still a major purchase, yet the monthly rent figure sits comfortably below the $2,000 ceiling used for this episode. For renters trying to stay within that line while remaining inside Seattle, Northgate brings a practical mix: lower rent, a relatively lower buy-in price, and a walk score that supports daily errands without making every trip car-dependent. It is a straightforward opening pick, but the countdown gets more surprising from here. Number 4, Haller Lake. Haller Lake comes in with a median rent of about $1,898, keeping it under the $2,000 mark while moving into a more residential-feeling part of North Seattle. The median home value is about $754,000. So the buy versus rent contrast becomes much larger than it was in Northgate. Jackson Park and North Acres Park are both close by, giving the area a green space story beyond the lake name itself. This is the first neighborhood where the trade-off is very clear. That trade-off is mobility. Haller Lake's walk score is 17, so most errands are going to call for a car rather than a quick walk. For this topic, that matters because a sub-$2,000 rent number does not automatically mean the same daily routine in every Seattle neighborhood. Here, the monthly rent stays inside the cap, but the neighborhood pattern is much more spread out, and the park access is a bigger part of the appeal than walkable storefront blocks. Haller Lake ranks ahead of Northgate because the rent remains below the ceiling, while the nearby home values jump dramatically, creating a wider contrast between renting and buying. Number 3. Bitter Lake. Bitter Lake takes the middle spot with a median rent of about $1,967. That is closer to the $2,000 ceiling, but still under it, and the median home value is about $696,000. The neighborhood wraps around its namesake lake, which gives this North Seattle pocket a clear geographic anchor. Among the 5, Bitter Lake is one of the easiest to picture on a map because the water itself is right there in the name and in the neighborhood's shape. The walk score here is 67, which puts Bitter Lake between the very car-dependent feel of Haller Lake and the high walk score neighborhoods still ahead. That middle ground profile is part of why it sits at number 3. The rent is not the lowest, and the home value is not the highest, but the combination is steady. For a renter using $2,000 as a firm monthly ceiling, Bitter Lake offers a lake-centered setting without crossing that rent line in the 2026 median figure. It also shows how different these Seattle options can feel even when their rents are separated by less than $150. Before we get to the top 2, it is worth pausing on what these numbers do and do not mean. Rent under $2,000 can help with monthly cash flow, but rent does not build equity, and Seattle home values run from about $546,000 all the way to about $1.17 million. Lease renewals can also reset upward, so a median rent figure is a snapshot, not a guarantee for every unit. Still, when the price-to-rent ratios run roughly 25 times to 53 times annual rent, the monthly rent side of the equation becomes especially important to compare. Number 2, Columbia City. Columbia City is the highest rent neighborhood in the top 5, with a median rent of about $1,988. That is just under the $2,000 line, but it stays inside the target, while the median home value sits around $794,000. The neighborhood also brings a walk score of 92, the strongest walk score. Genesee Park's open space and the Lake Washington shoreline a short walk east add 2 major location points that strengthen its case. Columbia City ranks this high because it combines the most walkable profile here, with a rent number that still clears the episode's threshold. It is not the cheapest rent, so it does not win on monthly cost alone. But compared with the cost of buying in the neighborhood, that rent figure creates a notable gap, especially for people measuring Seattle living by monthly housing cost rather than purchase price. The Lake Washington connection matters too. Shoreline access usually sounds like it should come with a much higher monthly number. Yet, Columbia City's median rent stays below $2,000 in the 2026 reading. There is also a useful contrast between Columbia City and Howler Lake. Both stay under the same rent cap, but one posts a walk score in the 90s, while the other sits in the teens. That does not make one objectively better for every routine, but it changes how the rent number feels day to day. If someone wants errands, parks, and lake access to factor into the rent conversation, Columbia City has one of the cleanest arguments in Seattle. It misses the top spot only because number 1 has an even more dramatic rent versus home value split. Number 1, Seward Park. Seward Park takes the top spot with a median rent of about $1,831, only a few dollars above Northgate's lowest rent figure. But the median home value is about $1.17 million, the highest by a wide margin. That works out to roughly 53 years of rent, using the median annual rent as the comparison. The neighborhood's signature feature is Seward Park itself, an old-growth forest peninsula jutting into Lake Washington, which gives this pick a setting that feels very different from a typical low-rent search result. This is why Seward Park is the surprise winner. In many Seattle housing conversations, a Lake Washington neighborhood with a 7-figure median home value sounds like it would not belong anywhere near a rent under $2,000 countdown. Yet the median rent figure here is about $1,831, keeping it inside the same monthly budget as the more expected North Seattle picks. That contrast is the entire story: a high-value ownership market, a major park and shoreline setting, and a rent number that still lands under the cap. The honest caution is inventory. Seward Park includes largely single-family stretches, so rental options can run thinner than in neighborhoods with more apartment-heavy blocks. Its walk score is 46, so it also does not offer the same errand-by-foot profile as Columbia City or Northgate. But for the specific question of where median rent sits under $2,000 while the surrounding home values climb dramatically, Seward Park stands alone. It turns the whole countdown on its head, because the lowest monthly number is not always found in the place with the lowest home prices. Seward Park also brings the clearest reminder that renting and buying can tell completely different stories in the same neighborhood. A renter is paying for monthly access to the location, while a buyer is competing in a market where land, water proximity, and limited supply can push values far higher. That does not make renting a long-term wealth strategy by itself, and it does not protect anyone from future rent increases. But for the 2026 snapshot, Seward Park's rent-to-home value contrast is the strongest example in Seattle among these 5 neighborhoods. So the 5 are Northgate, Howler Lake, Bitter Lake, Columbia City, and Seward Park. The takeaway: under $2,000 rent still appears in pockets where buying can mean a very different price scale. Every number in this video is sourced. Links are in the description. Which neighborhood would have made your top 5? If this helped, tap like and subscribe, and tell me what Seattle housing topic we should cover next.